Shanti. Salman Rushdie, the famous Indian-born British author, was stabbed several times by a religious fanatic recently. Salman Rushdie was facing a death threat called Fatwa by Muslim community because of his book Satanic Verses that he wrote in 1988. Muslims all over the world protested demanding banning of the book, and around 50 people were killed in separate incidents till death due to the Satanic Verses. The victims include the publishers, the translators, and policemen. In 1989, Iran spiritual leader Ayatollah declared a bounty on Salman Rushdie's head for $25,000. Then it gradually increased to $6 million. Even 3 years back, a YouTuber, possibly a Norwegian YouTuber, and he was a Muslim, but I think he is a Muslim atheist. So he showed certain parts of Satanic Verses to Muslim girls and guys and make them read it. And there was objectionable phrases where there was blasphemy about Islam. So girls got angry, but they didn't react more than that. But a guy grabbed the book and ran away and burnt it. He was so angry. So even that guy was so confused on what is there to get so hurt. Even I'm not happy with certain parts of that book, but it doesn't mean that I should restrict others' freedom to express. So, why are Muslims so angry on Salman Rushdie and his book, The Satanic Verses? I believe it is for 2 reasons. First, he makes the readers believe that Quran is in fact the words of Mohammed rather than the holy angel Gabriel. Actually, similar criticism happens with almost all religions. And the second and very important reason is Salman Rushdie has named the prostitutes in the novel with the names of the wives of Mohammed. We all know how protective Muslims are towards their women in terms of dress code, etc. Not only do Muslims give huge respect to Muhammad, but also they hold the wives of Muhammad as their motherly figure. So it is understandable for everybody, even non-Muslims can easily understand the pain they would undergo when they see their motherly figure portrayed as engaging in sexual acts with the clients. That is the number one reason Muslims get so furious. I believe all religions would have reacted similarly if their religions were blasphemed similarly. They would have held protests, they would have demanded for banning the book, but of course they wouldn't declare bounty on the author's head. Except for that, they would have reacted similarly. The reason Muslims issue fatwa over these issues is because they take their religion very seriously compared to the people of other faiths. Does it mean Muslims are intolerant to criticism of their religion? Of course not, because we find only Muslims inviting people of other faith to participate in a debate against Islam. People have strong faith in their religions are less prone to committing any sins compared to atheists. Destroying the sacredness of the religious scriptures will lead many people to lose faith on their religions, thereby start committing many sins, leading to the rapid destruction of the world. So such novels will only create unrighteous world. And nobody would have guessed that holding such protests to ban the novel will actually promote this novel so that it sustains even after 34 years. If there were no protests, no death threats, no burning of the novel, no killing of the translators and publishers, obviously this book wouldn't have lasted for more than a year. The great Muslim scholar Dr. Shabir says, in Quran there was a place where Muhammad was found reciting the verses in favor of praying to multiple gods, which is totally against Quran. So that was actually not the word of Gabriel. So Gabriel warned that, then they have it removed. So that is called the actual satanic verses. So this makes the atheist to criticize Quran. So this doesn't mean Muhammad intentionally used his own thoughts in Quran. It just means even for Muhammad, at times it is difficult for him to distinguish the words of Gabriel from his own thoughts. Not only Salman Rushdie's The Satanic verses blasphemes Quran, but as a matter of fact, every single movie, novel or social media blasphemes not only Quran or Islam, but they end up blaspheming all religions because they preaches things that all religions preach not to do. So all these movies and novels, they try to imbibe into the audience mind lust, anger, greed, attachment and ego, which all religions discourage man to do so. So is it possible for anybody or any religion to ban all these movies and novels? Absolutely not. So what is the solution? Only we can protect ourselves. We can't even protect our kids or wives or husbands or parents because they have to show self-restraint. Until then, nobody can protect them from the clutches of Satan. So nobody is going to judge Islam or any other religion by reading a blasphemous book. But issuing the death threat to the author or stabbing the author angrily will definitely bring disgrace to the religion involved. Salman Rushdie is speaking at many conferences stressing on the importance of the freedom of speech. But no Muslim leader speaks about the ill effects that such blasphemous books bring not only to Islam but to the society on the whole. People issued fatwa against Salman Rushdie in order to silence him, but the consequence is exactly the opposite of it. It actually provoked him more. Also, it brings a bad image for Islam in general. People like Zakir Naik try really hard to convince people that Islam is indeed a religion of peace. So, to prove that, he is ready to debate with anybody of any religion. He did it with Sri Ravi Shankar, and he also invited Sadhguru to have a debate with him. But I really wonder why he did not invite Salman Rushdie to have a debate. Because Salman Rushdie, being a Muslim, knows everything about Islam. So I think Salman Rushdie is the right person to have a debate with Zakir Naik. But I hardly believe that Zakir Naik will ever invite Salman Rushdie, because despite being promoting Islam as a religion of peace, he supported Fatwa against Salman Rushdie. So, which nullifies all his effort in promoting Islam as the religion of peace. At least Zakir Naik should have taken an initiative to convince Salman Rushdie to embrace Islam again. The real issue here is not anti-Islamic views of Salman Rushdie, but his atheistic views. Yes, if he is a believer of God, he would try to see Islam or any religion in a positive light. But since he is an atheist, all he can possibly see is the negativity that's quite apparent in any religion. It is true that you can see flaws in all religions. One need not be highly intelligent to pick up the flaws of any religion, because it is already quite apparent. For example, in Hinduism, in Mahabharata, Draupadi was shown to have 5 husbands, and still she is regarded as a chaste woman, which is quite contrary. So even in Mahabharata, Karan used to call Draupadi once as a prostitute because she got married to 5 men. So that's the riddle of that scripture. It is quite apparent she is married to 5 men. So how can someone consider her a chaste or worth of worship because she is being worshipped now? If somebody is worshipped, obviously they deserve it. They must be holy. But what about her getting married to 5 husbands? So there is some secret that we can't understand. So that's a big riddle. So we need to try to find the solution. One needs to be intelligent only to find the solution to the riddle, not to ridicule the riddle. So Islam says God is only one, He is the creator. You should never hold anyone equal to God. But there are many people who blasphemes God, but no Muslim or Christian or Hindu or anyone from any religious faith becomes upset when somebody blasphemes God. On the other hand, if Mohammed gets blasphemed, Muslims get angry. If Jesus Christ gets blasphemed, Christians get angry. But when God gets blasphemed, who is the superior Lord Almighty, gets blasphemed, nobody cares about it. What does it prove? It proves that nobody has any trace of love for God. Why do they not have love for God? Because the answer is pretty simple. Nobody knows anything about God. If you do not know anything about God or about anybody, how can we have love for them? So that is the reason God says, nobody loves me like you do. By you, He means us, the ones who takes knowledge directly from God, not from any religious founder or any great saints. You may be surprised when I say we learn directly from God. How is that possible? It is not mentioned in any religious scriptures. Of course, it is not mentioned in any religious scriptures directly, but it is mentioned indirectly. For example, Jesus Christ says, if you call me Jesus, Jesus in the end, I'm going to say I do not know who you are. Because it is only those who listen to the word of God and act accordingly will be eligible to enter heaven, not those who call out my name, which means it is applicable to all religions. If you hold on to your religious founder, you are not going to enter heaven, because as a matter of fact, you don't even know what heaven is, where heaven is, and what is the eligibility to enter heaven. It is only God that comes in the end, gives this knowledge. Even that is mentioned indirectly in many religions. So they all accept that God comes in the end, but since they are not aware of who God is, they think their religious founder to be God, that Jesus Christ will have his second coming in the end. Sri Krishna will be coming as Sri Kalki in the end. But guess what? Nobody comes for the second time in a time cycle called Kalpa, which lasts for 5,000 years. Of course, Krishna came in the beginning when the world was heaven. And Jesus Christ came when the heaven slowly becomes hell. So, Sri Krishna was Sri Krishna only for the first birth. In the second birth, he will be somebody with totally different form. So is Jesus Christ. Of course, all souls after taking first birth in earth will continue to take rebirth, so they will all be here in a different form. But it is only God that comes in the end. His name is God Shiva, who is also called Allah by Muslims, and Heavenly God Father by Christians. What's the difference between God and other humans or religious founders? Well, God is also a soul just like us. We souls shines like a tiny star in between the eyebrows, which is why Hindus have this habit of wearing a religious symbol in between the eyebrows, because that's where we reside. God is also a soul, but he doesn't take birth like us. That is why it is mentioned in Quran and Bible that nobody has ever seen God. Actually, nobody can see us, the soul. All we see is the dress that the soul wears, that is this body. But we are not this perishable body. As a matter of fact, in the beginning, when the world was heaven, everyone who resided in heaven were soul conscious, which means they considered themselves to be the souls that operate this body. It is the souls that sees through the eyes, listens through the ears, do all actions through this body. So they were constantly aware of themselves, that is the souls, because of which they experience continuous peacefulness and blissfulness, because the very nature of the soul itself is blissfulness and peacefulness. Since they were blissful and peaceful all the time, they did not depend on anything external for deriving happiness, because anything external to us or liable to change or destruction. So since they don't depend on external imperishable person or things for their happiness, their blissfulness and happiness lost permanently because the soul is imperishable. As long as we were residents of heaven for the first 2500 years, we were soul conscious, thereby we were free of all sinful acts like lust, anger, greed, attachment, and ego. Because for those vices, one need to be body conscious. So they all come into being after this world becomes hell for the next 2500 years because we become body conscious. So while we were in heaven, we were so happy and we were so rich that we lived in houses built of golden bricks. Nonetheless, we had no windows or doors to protect our houses because nobody there knows what theft is. They were so innocent like a newborn baby. That's why they are being worshipped by Hindus till date. Yes, those 33 crores residents of heaven were worshipped as 33 crore deities. They didn't know what lust is, anger is, greed or attachment or ego is. So how do they give birth? Well, the husband and wife, when they have the thought of having a baby, the wife gets pregnant. So that's the power of thought of a pure soul. That is why we worship them. Even Christians worship Jesus and consider him equal to God is mainly because he is believed to be born pure. So after the completion of first 2500 years, we forget the fact that we are souls. So we become body conscious. Thereby we need to depend on the external things to derive happiness from. Thereby we become addicted to sensual pleasures and thereby addicted to these 5 vices: lust, anger, greed, attachment and ego. As a result, we start committing more and more sins. So that results in the punishments in the form of diseases, poverty, natural calamities, and war between nations and conflict between family members. As time goes by, the amount of sins committed by humans increase. So is the amount of punishment humans need to endure also increase. And now we are reaching the end of the Kali Yuga, when God himself enters an old man's body. He doesn't take birth like us. He enters an old man's body and names him Brahma and start giving his direct teachings through his mouth. Actually, this Brahma is called Nandi in Hinduism. So Nandi is shown as the chariot of God Shiva. But they have shown a bull, but God doesn't enter a bull. What's he going to do by entering a bull? So he enters an old man's body to use his mouth to give these divine teachings. Actually, this Brahma is represented as Adam in Bible and Quran. So it doesn't mean that God created humans from earth. No. Humans always exist on this planet Earth. They were deities filled with all divine qualities in the beginning because the soul was so powerful and pure. Slowly it loses its power and purity, thereby the divine qualities gets reduced, and while entering hell, it starts accumulating bad qualities, evil qualities like lust, anger, greed, attachment and ego. It is because the soul loses its power, the soul gets diseased body, loses its wealth, health, everything. So in order for us to regain everything that we have lost for the past 5,000 years, God asks us to regain our power of purity. So the way to do that is pretty simple. Unlike the ways of any religion, you need not fast, you need not go to your spiritual sites, you need not do prayers, you need not do any difficult task. You need not even use your mouth to utter God's name. So what else should you do? Actually, the soul contains mind and intellect and sanskar. So it is the mind that becomes corrupt now. So the soul gets corrupt. So it is the soul that needs to get pure. In order for that, you need to remember God, who is ever pure. God resides in this supreme abode called the soul world or Parandam or Parlok. So even we souls, before taking birth on this planet Earth, resided along with God. And after completing this Kalpa cycle, during the world destruction, all souls need to get rid of their bodies and go back to the home of souls. God says, we are in hell. First 2500 years is heaven and the last 2500 years is hell. We are now in hell because we possess characteristic of hell. How did we learn that? We learn through the teachings of men, through the religions created by men. So that's how we became residents of hell. So in order for us to become the residents of heaven again, we need to inculcate the behaviors that we originally possessed as deities. So we did not have lust in our eyes, we did not have anger in our heart for anybody, so we were so peaceful, so blissful, our words were so sweet. So God, using the Brahma's body, gives these teachings called Murli, which is available absolutely free of cost in all Brahma Kumaris Rajayoga meditation centers. It is also available in YouTube websites. You can Google it for yourself as Brahma Kumaris Murli. It is by listening to the teachings of God and by remembering God as a point of light throughout the day that the soul gets purified gradually. It takes time to get rid of all those 5 vices. So it is not enough only to remember God and to listen Murli, but also we need to stay away from everything in this world. So it should be as if we are dead to this world. That's why God says, if you are dead, the world is dead for you. So how do you achieve that? By considering yourselves to be just a soul without the body. It is only in death the soul leaves the body, right? So by considering yourselves to be souls all the time and by seeing each other as souls constantly, you will have the habit of seeing each other as soul, and also there will be great improvement in your behavior. And also we need to ponder over the Murli points every 30 minutes so that you make sure that your mind is always busy with the knowledge points so that it changes your behavior gradually. You know how common the lust is among people of all ages in Kali Yuga, especially in this internet era. Despite that, one through remembrance through constant remembrance of God, one is able to conquer lust. And by listening to the teachings of God and thinking over the teachings of God constantly, one can be able to conquer anger and other vices as well. But as I mentioned earlier, it definitely takes time and constant effort. So we need to constantly remind ourselves that we are already dead. We have no bodies, which means we have no connection with anybody who is related to this body, like your wife, your parents, your kids, your brothers and sisters. There's absolutely no connection. You are the Son of God, so are they. So what is the relation between anybody who has a common father? Just brothers and sisters. That is the only relationship that we have with others. And brothers and sisters, that relation occur only if you are body conscious. Since we do not have body, we do not see anybody as a body, so we consider everybody only as brothers, because all souls have a right to our Father's inheritance, which is heaven. So it is common previously that only male child inherit father's inheritance, right? So now, since we all inherit God's inheritance, we are sons to the Supreme Soul. So we need to constantly remind ourselves that we are souls, imperishable souls, that has already completed 84 births, which is the maximum number of births one can take in this 5,000 year time cycle. The number of births seem less because their lifespan in heaven is very long, on average 150 years. So we take only 21 births for the first 2,500 years and 63 births in the last 2,500 years in hell. So we are going to heaven. So by remembering God, we are becoming eligible to enter heaven. So when our soul leaves this body, the destination of the soul is going to be determined by the first thought the soul produces soon after leaving this body. If you are going to have a thought about somebody in this world, say your parents or spouse or children, then you will be taking birth in this planet Earth, because your mind is here. Mind is part of soul. So wherever the mind is, soul goes there. So in order for us to escape from this hell, from taking birth in this hell, we should not think anything that is present in this world. Whether it is thing or person, you should not remember them. Only you should remember God as a point of light and also heaven. So these are the only two things that your mind should be filled with in order for you to take birth in heaven. So God teaches us the law of karma. So if we have committed sins, obviously we will be facing the punishment for them. So there is no doubt that we have been committing more sins in our past 63 births in hell. So that is the reason we are facing so many problems in family, in workplace, in terms of disease, in terms of natural calamities. Now, since we are aware that we are responsible for all the problems that we face, we no longer have anger towards anybody, because they are, after all, the instruments to give punishments for the past sins. Well, it is because they hurt us, obviously they will also be punished, but our sins are getting destroyed by taking those insults. But we don't take them by heart by letting them do whatever they want without reacting to them. And you know what? You actually won't get hurt. The reason is you are not here. You are already dead in your mind. So you are actually living there in the supreme abode or in heaven. And in order for you to go there, you need to pass certain examinations. You have to prove to God that you have indeed conquered lust, greed, attachment, and ego. So, obviously, something that arouses you sexually will definitely come in front of you, or in the internet while you are browsing. So if you stay peaceful, if you don't find even the slightest disturbance, you have passed the examination. Likewise, but it's not going to happen only once, it will happen constantly. You have to pass the test every second. Also, someone who provokes you comes in front of you, but you should not get angry. How's that possible? By bringing to your mind the knowledge that it is your sin that comes in front of you in the form of some relationship to punish you, that you stay calm. Since you are calm and not reacting to that person that provokes you, he gradually becomes calm as well, and your sinful karma gets settled right there with that person. So yes, the greed, attachment, and ego, you will have test papers for that as well. And if you are disturbed, the first thing you are going to lose is peace. So if you bring awareness to the peaceful state of mind all the time, then it is very easy for you to not fall prey to those five vices. So that is the reason we Brahma Kumaris always remind each other while meeting as Om Shanti, which means Om means I am the soul. Shanti, every Indian knows that it is peace. So I am soul, my true nature is peace. If you remind yourself that you are an embodiment of peace yourselves, and by bringing awareness to that stage, no matter what happens around you, you will be so cautious not to lose that stage of peace. So it is possible to attain that stage easily by being in constant remembrance of God, and by remembering the knowledge points from Murli, and by reminding yourself that you are the soul that is ready to go to heaven after passing every test. So this is the true teaching of God. This is the only teaching of God given directly by God. All other teachings you receive from all other religions were created in hell by Satan. Satan means those five vices: lust, anger, greed, attachment, and ego, which means the teachings of humans. So teachings of humans will definitely have flaws. That is the reason we find people fight over each other over religions and the God of those religions. But God is only one. Why nobody cares about God? Because nobody knows the duty of God. God comes only in the end to give us our inheritance of heaven by making us eligible to become the residents of heaven through His divine teachings. So through the teachings of other religions which were created in hell, you become residents of hell. So only God gives you the teachings to make you eligible to become the residents of heaven. God's teachings makes you accept any pain and sorrow that you receive from outside or from within in the form of diseases, because you know the soul is so corrupt, so it has to experience punishment. But the mere fact that you are solely responsible for everything that happens to you, it is very easy for you to stay calm. On the other hand, if you think somebody else is responsible for me to lose peace, then you will start enforcing control over them, as it happens with Salman Rushdie. Salman Rushdie, for whatever reason, believes that it is the religion that is responsible for him to lose peace, so he wants to pinpoint the flaws of the religion he belongs to, thereby enables the people of his religion to escape from that religion, thereby find peace themselves. But that's not going to happen, because we ourselves are embodiment of peace, but because we get attached to our bodies and bodily religions and bodily relationships, that we lose peace. So how do we regain peace? Just by detaching ourselves from everything that is related to this body, including this body. We are just soul that is as free as God. My Father, God, is a supreme soul who is free and pure. So am I. But I didn't know this for the past 2500 years, so I became body conscious and considered myself falsely to be this body, that it is very hard for me to detach from the body and its relationships. That's why God's teachings comes to the rescue. So he gives these teachings to everybody, but not everybody believes him. Even those who believe him don't follow all his directions accurately because of their weakness towards these vices. They are unable to get out of it. But if you are very sincere to consider yourself to be the soul and to see everybody as a soul, you will find experiencing the true nature of soul, which is purity, blissfulness, and peacefulness. How do we experience that? By having awareness of the soul constantly, no matter what happens around us, so that we no longer depend on the external world for the happiness, which of course we will never get permanently. But once you have the awareness inwards, you'll be able to tap into those blissfulness and peacefulness constantly forever. Of course, it takes effort and time, but be patient, persevere, then you can attain, and you will see your behaviors changing dramatically within a year or so. So the more effort you put, the more pure you become, so the higher the status you can achieve in heaven, because entering heaven is not a difficult task, because once you learn this knowledge through any means, by going to Brahma Kumari Center or by listening to one of these videos, if you understand it, if you have even a little bit of faith and remember God as a point of light and considering yourselves as a point of light, even for a minute, you will definitely enter heaven. So it is as easy as that. But what is really difficult is to be able to enter heaven in the beginning itself, to take birth as Sri Narayan, which is the highest status in heaven. So in order for that, you need to constantly keep your mind busy with only with the knowledge points and remembrance of God and heaven. If you are able to achieve that, you can easily enter heaven in the beginning with the highest status possible. So when you have a clear goal of becoming Sri Narayan, no matter what insults somebody inflicts on us, it's going to make us happy instead of making depressed. Because by letting everything happen on its course without interrupting, without reacting, that your ability to tolerate everything increases. Thereby, you will become Sri Narayan. So that's going to give you happiness. Here, Salman Rushdie blames Muslim fanatics to have low tolerance power. Well, that's true, but same is true of Salman Rushdie as well. He has less soul power that he is unable to inflict pain on others by his words. Actually, everybody in this world is an atheist because nobody knows anything about God. Only those who take this teaching directly from God knows about God, have love for God. So no matter what happens around them, no matter what insult they get from the stranger, from the family members, they least bother about it because they are not attached emotionally to anything, including this body. So they will stay happy. That is the only way to stay happy. And this is the only teaching of God that makes us to become eligible to enter heaven. So the divine teachings of God will make you so lovable even in front of the most angry person. So you will remain at peace, thereby making the other person who was initially angry peaceful as well. Because you can bring peace only by being at peace, not through violence or anything, because that is the way of Satan, not the way of God. Everybody is a children of God. How do you expect God to make one sect of his children to kill another sect of his children? That's the duty of Satan. Can't you recognize that? Whether you inflict pain on others through your words, sight, or attitude or actions, you are acting as a slave of Satan. But if you remain peaceful and blissful and spread love even to the ones that try to hurt you, then that is the sign that you are the children of God. You are taking the direct knowledge of God. You can never change the world by violence, by making fun of them. It is only through love that you can create the magic of creating the lovable world, heaven, with the guidance of God, that one God. Even if you make fun of God or blaspheme God, we direct children of God are not going to get provoked. Why? Does it mean we don't love God? Of course we love God. And we know that is what one can expect from the resident of hell, the children of Satan. So we know that. Anyway, God is imperishable and he is always lovable. So is his children. After all, everybody is our brothers. So we should be merciful towards them. We should look for a better way to convince them of this message, which is the direct message of God. But only if they are lucky, they will recognize the God and His words, or else they'll continue to be what they already are, so that they lose the inheritance of heaven for the next 2500 years. So during that time, they will just stay there along with God without any thought. So it's like a coma stage, because God, after giving this knowledge, will be going there along with all the souls. So the only time where you know God, where you experience the love of God, is the last 100 years, which is now, when God Himself comes. So if you miss it now, you are going to miss it forever, for all kalpa, because whatever happens in this 5000 year kalpa, it keeps repeating accurately kalpa after kalpa. Which means if you're watching this video now in 2022, in this kalpa, you will obviously be watching the same video in 2022, every kalpa after kalpa. So if you make sincere effort just now, not only you will regain everything you have lost for the past 2500 years, but also you are going to regain them kalpa after kalpa. Om Shanti. Thanks for watching.